Om Agyanativirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulanmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him. So, very happy to be here with all of you. Is everybody comfortable? Happy? So yeah, I like to start by asking a question, and it's a very simple question. And I'd also like to request everybody, or at least some, to try to come up with some questions, because maybe we could leave some good amount of time for questions and comments. But one question, which is very simple, that I'd like to ask all of you is, if you could just raise your hands. How many of you on a daily basis use an alarm clock? Okay, most. Some people don't. All right. So yeah, when we're sleeping, it's actually considered to be like a ignorant state, because if we really analyze it, we just forget about everything. We forget about everyone. Practically, we're just in an ignorant state, generally speaking, when people are sleeping. And only when we open our eyes, when the alarm clock goes off, then we start to have recollection of who we are, of where we are. Actually, if you travel a lot, you may have had the experience, or at least it is an experience that people have that travel a lot. Sometimes you may be traveling around the world, and you're sleeping in a particular location, and then you wake up and go, "Where am I?" Because you're going around on the plane so much. Where am I? Okay, yes, I'm in India, or yes, I'm in Australia, or whatever. I haven't had it happen so much, but I think I've had it happen at least once. Where I'm okay, now I remember. One of my friends, he travels a lot, and he has that experience a lot. So yeah, when we awaken, we remember who we are, what we should be doing. But in a state of sleeping, we do not remember. There's no recollection. It's just a ignorant state. So the Vedic literature, or the teachings from India, coming from great sages and saints, have told us that similarly, to be in material consciousness is just like that, to be asleep. It means to be forgetful of our real identity. It means to not have recollection of who we are and where we're going and what's the goal and what we should be doing. It just means to be in a state of ignorance, to be forgetful. So that's material consciousness. And the whole idea is to use the human form of life, because there's many forms of life, not all of them are humans, to use the human form of life to awaken, to realize who we are, what's the goal of life. But that doesn't happen by, it doesn't happen automatically. It's not so easy, just like set an alarm clock. Anybody could set an alarm clock, right? Phone, or some of us may have old alarm clocks, right? Old-fashioned, plug them in the wall alarm clocks. It's very simple. It's very easy to do that. And then we wake up. But it's not so simple and so easy to become elevated above material consciousness. But it's necessary and it's needed. And you could say the challenge of who just walked out? Okay, real gentleman. He closed the door. The real challenge of, you could say, modern times or the times we're living in. One of the challenges is to overcome laziness in spiritual life. Laziness means inertia. It means lack of energy. It means not putting out as much. Yeah, not putting out. Everybody knows what laziness means. So it's something that has to be transcended. And in this particular age, the Srimad Bhagavatam, this book, there's predictions actually of what this is a book written 5,000 years ago. Even if you were to say it was written, some academic people say 2,000 or whatever, there's a lot of predictions of this particular time. And one of the predictions that's stated or that's brought up is that people in this age, in general, not everybody, but it's something you could say that because it's being brought up, we could try to focus on it and try to remove it from our lives. But it says that people in this age will be not only lazy materially. Hey, Hare Krishna, Chris. Hare Krishna. Good evening. Welcome. I don't know your name. What's your name? Okay, yeah. Yes. Naresh. Okay. Very good evening. Nice to meet you. My name is Balarama Dasa. So, it's mentioning the predictions with the idea that we could try to we could focus on them and try to transcend them. Is that what I was saying? Okay. Yeah. So not only lazy materially, but lazy spiritually. And you could see that that's why. Anyways, there was our spiritual teacher. He tells a story of two lazy men. They happen to be men, but so this was back in a long time ago when they used to have such things as kings, rulers, not presidents or prime ministers, whatever, kings. But so there's this king, and then what was happening was that the king, he agreed to feed all the lazy people in town. So then a bunch of people showed up, right? They put a big pandal, a big tent, and a bunch of people showed up. So then the government they started complaining to the king. Oh, there's so many people here, and are they all really lazy? I mean, so because so then the king said, okay, I have a plan. So what you should do is tomorrow, when it's lunchtime, everybody's having lunch, you go there and you light the tent on fire. And then whoever stays, then they're qualified. They're really lazy. So anyways, these guys, the government guys, they went there, and next day during lunchtime, and everybody's sitting there, having their lunch and talking and modern day politics, whatever they're talking about. And so then the government guys, they light the tent on fire, so it starts, flames are going up, and everybody's running away, taking off. I mean, if this Krishna lounge was to light on fire, then everybody would be running out the doors and jumping out the windows, and luckily it's a first floor window, but so that's what these people were doing. They're running away, right? So then, but there's two guys there, and they're having their lunch. Two guys remaining. They're talking, and one of the guys tells other guys, "Oh, it's starting to get a little hot in here." So he's asking the guy, "What do you think we should do?" And the guy's, eating his lunch. He says, just kind of move your back, turn your back, towards the fire, Anyways, so so the government men, they told this to the king, and they said, okay, these guys are authentic, authentic lazy guys, so you could feed them every day. Anyways, about laziness. So, but it's but in order to become spiritually realized, we do have to exert a lot of energy. Becoming spiritually realized is, I mean, when people want to make a lot of money, and when certain people do make a lot of money, a lot of the times they'll ask those people in interviews, this and that, oh, what did you do? I mean, they worked very hard, like inconceivably hard, and reducing their sleep, right? So many things to achieve just material wealth. So similarly, what to speak of spiritual realization, which is actually more valuable. So we have to exert a lot of energy. So, but just as an alarm clock wakes us up every day, most of us, similarly, sound will wake us up, means spiritually. It's a similar principle. Sound. So therefore we're stressing so much Hare Krishna, this mantra here, right? We're stressing this so much because this is the process. This is the, you could say, alarm clock. This is how we awake. This is how we wake up. But in order for that particular process to work, we obviously have to engage in it, or else it doesn't work. Makes sense, right? It will work if we engage in it, if we apply ourselves. But if we don't apply ourselves, or if we apply ourselves in a lazy fashion, then the results won't take place. Hare Krishna, please. Welcome to you. So, and that's example given that when we're sleeping, all of the senses, you could say, are asleep. Of course, the mind is active, but mind is always active. But the ears are, if a sound, like an alarm clock goes off, or if somebody says, "Hey, wake up, fire, fire," then we'll wake up. So as I was mentioning the last talk I gave here, that material existence, the existence that we're experiencing, means material consciousness, is a bit of a fire. Actually, it is a fire. What do I mean by that? Those who were here last time, does anybody remember? We were talking about forest fire and bamboo. Anyways, this friction, the friction of the bamboo. Nobody wants the forest to go into flames, but it happens automatically. You have bamboo, right, growing, and then the violent wind will cause friction between the bamboo, and then the flames will go up. So similarly, in material existence, we don't want anxiety. We don't want frustration. We don't want loneliness. We don't want so many things. But they just happen. Conflicts with each other. And so on. So it's a fire. And as I was just mentioning, how the ears act as a very great instrument to help us wake up. Just as if a house is on fire, wake up, wake up, wake up, get out of the house, it's on fire. So similarly, the material existence, wake up, get out of material consciousness. It's not, there's something much better. That's what the Vedas are saying, the ancient spiritual books are saying. And they're saying, chanting Hare Krishna, the process. Sometimes in California, there's earthquakes, but there's not other things like what? Tornadoes, hurricanes, but we have earthquakes and fires. So one of my friends, or acquaintances, he was living up in North County, and fires were getting close to his house. But the nature of fire, they say you should deal with three things immediately. You know what those are? One, disease. Why? Because it increases if you don't take care of it immediately. Two, debt. That also increases. And three, fires. Deal with them immediately. So anyways, somehow or other, he didn't realize that the fire was getting close to his house, but it was. Getting really close. And then he was sleeping in his house, and the fire started to engulf his house. And while he was sleeping also. So while he was sleeping there, all of a sudden, he hears his alarm clock go off. And the alarm clock was our spiritual teacher, Srila Prabhupada, chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So he heard that, and then he woke up and he realized, my house is about to be engulfed, and if I don't get out of here, my life is finished. So he ran out. Majumdar. You know Majumdar? Yeah, you know this story. And he has saved his life. So by sound, so similarly in material existence, it's like a fire. The house is on fire. And we need to, get out of the samsara, get out of material existence, get out of material consciousness. And therefore, Hare Krishna. Chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, which is free. It's right here. You could take it home with you. We won't charge you anything. We won't charge you $20, $40, $100, $1,000. Some people are charging for mantras these days. I don't know how much. How much? $1,000? Depends on the mantra. So people are charging for mantras, but we're not charging, so you could take it home with you. And you could also take it with you wherever you go. When you travel, when you go here, there, anywhere throughout the world, you could take it with you. Chant on beads. We have our japa beads, our chanting beads, kirtan. And there's no, you could say, strict rules. Chanting, you could chant anywhere. In any state, actually. Some of these mantras and different spiritual processes actually require that you go through so many preliminary activities in order to become qualified. For example, those of you who have been to the temple next door, you'll notice there's an altar there. And on the altar, Krishna's on the altar, but in order to go on the altar, it requires years, actually, of preparation. And spiritual reading, chanting, all these preliminary things to actually step foot on the altar, which is a spiritual activity, which we'll get into some other time. But with chanting, anybody, anyone, any place, any time, it doesn't matter. Any part of the world, everybody is qualified. So that's the beautiful thing about chanting, is that it's free, it's available for everybody. We just have to apply ourselves, and if we apply ourselves, then we'll gradually wake up more and more and more and more and more, because like you could think about when you wake up or when people wake up in the morning, they wake up, but it's kind of like gradual. They wake up and they open their eye, snooze button a few times or whatever, and then and even when they actually do wake up and they're moving around, and they're still sometimes not fully like conscious. So it takes some time, gradually wake up and be fully alert. So that's the idea. And the chanting of Hare Krishna will wake us up. So, does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Raj. Mike is on its way. Mike is walking over.
Great talk.
Thank you.
Very entertaining. Very insightful. The story that you said about the king and the government men, I think was a good way to reveal the dangers of government men or bootlickers, that they really would burn down their own city just to do what they were told. And the reflection I had was, you said when we're dreaming, we can't really remember anything when we wake up, but there are ways to be attentive when we're alert, awake, that when we sleep, we can't remember, and we wake up, we can recall. So in that way, is it possible that in this real world, even though we're in Maya or Matrix or illusion, that we're able to escape from the ignorance of illusion and actually be alert?
Yeah. Yeah, there's different stages of consciousness. So there's like deep sleep, and then there's not deep sleep, and then there's wakefulness, and then there's spiritual consciousness. But in spiritual consciousness, there's also levels. So it's interesting. But it says for a spiritually realized person, even when they're sleeping, they're not really sleeping like you could say a person of material consciousness, or a person affected by the material world or material consciousness is experiencing sleep. It's different. I've been around, I'm thinking of two spiritual practitioners. One I was a roommate with, And I remember, it's very interesting actually, but he was just laying there, and I remember he was sleeping, and then we came inside because we went out chanting downtown, out on the streets. That's also another thing, interesting thing about chanting Hare Krishna is you could take it out on the streets too, right? The drums and kartals. And if you really think about it, what other? I mean, there are some other groups, but not so many groups that do that throughout the world. Um, but I remember we were coming back one night, and he was sleeping there, and then we walked in, and he opened his eyes wide, like opened his eyes wide, and he had a big smile on his face, and he said, Hare Krishna. And this was a common thing with him. So he didn't like wake up all groggy and all kind of like, ignorant and, where am I and who am I? But he's very alert right when he woke up. And I remember a similar thing with another person. In other words, it was as if they weren't even sleeping. They're experiencing sleep in a different way. Maybe. We definitely travel while we sleep, right? We travel here, we travel there. I mean, even in our daydream, which we're experiencing now, we also travel, the mind, right? They say the speed of the mind, so we think of like Ujeshwari here. She's from India, born in India, so she visits India every once in a while, so she just thinks of India, right? Of her family and Delhi or wherever it is, and she's there, right? Through her mind, so power of the mind. Anyways, thank you. Yeah, government, they say, right? When is a how do you know a politician's lying? Okay, now everybody say it once. Huh? Yes. The lips are moving, so yeah, politicians have lawyers and politicians have kind of a not hope there's no lawyer. I mean, but they sometimes have a bad reputation. Anyways, okay. Any other comment or question? Yes, sir.
Hello, Balaram.
Hey, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I guess I just wanted to clarify my understanding of your analogy of the material world being an alarm clock to awakening. You were mentioning these things that we don't necessarily want or desire,
Yeah.
such as loneliness and etc.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify my understanding because typically we think of these things as things that we don't want, and so we tell ourselves stories about what it all means rather than looking at it or realizing it for what it is, which is an alarm clock. Is that correct? Is that what you were trying to say?
Well, yeah, the alarm clock or the way to wake up is through sound, and sound primarily the Hare Krishna mantra. That's how we by alarm while we're sleeping at night, we set our alarm clock on our phone or whatever, and we wake up in the morning or whenever we wake up. So similarly, in material consciousness or in material existence, we're sleeping, spiritually speaking. So the alarm clock is the Hare Krishna mantra. That's how we wake up. Sound, right? Now, these different experiences we have: loneliness, frustration, anger, unhappiness, all these different things. You could say these also could act as an alarm clock that, okay, means like a wake-up call. Sometimes people have to undergo some severe suffering in their life to, you could say, become more serious about spiritual life. Sometimes, it's so everything's great, everything's good, this and that, I'm having a good time. I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, blah, 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 right? Sun shining. I got my fruit juice, right? I got my spiritual girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever. Everything's good. But then maybe something happens. I don't know, we lose somebody in our family, we experience some setback, whatever. There's so many things that could happen. And that could act as a wake-up call. So the negative experiences we go through can act as a wake-up call. They should, actually. Not that we're like a donkey, just gets beat all day and night long and survives on a little grass given by the master, and then we're just satisfied, but it's like suffering so much. Of course, someone say, hey, how do you know the donkey's suffering? And the donkey might be a better meditator than you, right? He might be self-realized. Well, anyways, look, you may look at it that way, but looking at it from another angle of vision, which philosophers or thinkers do look at things from many different angles of vision. You can say the most obvious thing is donkeys, especially in India, right? I don't know. Anyone who's been to India, you see that it's ridiculous. I don't even know how they do it. I don't even know how the donkey tolerates that. These huge loads, like ridiculous load of laundry or whatever stuff, donkeys carrying it all day. It's amazing, actually. They have this. I think it's a series of photographs they've taken about in relation to India, and then it says only in India, right? You've seen those. If you haven't seen those, it's quite funny. But so colorful place, India. But so in other words, not that we're just suffering, but not seeing it as a wake-up call, not seeing it as an impetus for change. Pain is a teacher. It means that we're doing something that shouldn't be done, or something that is not necessary for us, something that's against our nature, and therefore we should change our course. Just like tonight, devotees, we have Soul here. He walked in at a good time, so he was working very hard in the kitchen. Krishna bless you. So he's working very hard in the kitchen to make everybody's dinner, which we'll have soon. But it's not like tonight Saul said, okay, well, I was in the kitchen and I worked really hard. We got a bunch of plastic bags, shopping bags from Vaughn's, and I chopped them up and I, put some batter on them and I fried them. And now we're going to have plastic bag pakoras or whatever, fried items. What do they call those? Another tradition? Fritters, yeah. We're gonna have plastic bag fritters for dinner. He didn't do that. He's very good, actually. Don't worry. But if we're to do that, that's against our nature. We're gonna have a problem. We're gonna have to go to UCSD hospital or Kaiser or something. Why? Because it's against our nature. The human body's not meant for that. So similarly, we have to. Of course, we could do whatever we want, but it seems that intelligent thing to do is to try to find out what is our nature and then align ourselves with that nature, and then we don't have to suffer. And if we are suffering, then yeah, it's, we have to change course a little bit. So anyways, yes. You want to, I think, what?
Yeah, so why have we forgotten our true nature?
Okay. Well, at one particular point in history, it may be hard to trace that out exactly, we wanted it. We wanted to forget. And after wanting to forget our nature, we moved in that direction, and we engaged in a lot of activities to help us forget our nature. And then we became more and more illusioned and more bewildered and more forgetful. of our spiritual nature. And therefore, you could say we have become conditioned by our material consciousness and forgetful. So the idea is we want to, it's like we're driving on the freeway, right? We can't immediately, it means we're going fast, right? Like in California, they go fast, or we go fast. So we're going fast, 80 miles an hour, 85, 90, maybe 100 if you're real enthusiastic, right? In a particular direction. But Utah's, they have 80 miles an hour speed limit. We were just over there, but there's a festival over there. But so we can't just immediately turn the wheel and go the other direction. That's dangerous, actually. So we have to slow down a little bit. Slow down. So we're slowing down our material conditioning, or our material life, right? We're slowing down. Then finally we come to a stop, right? Turn around and go the other direction. So that's the idea. We want to, or somebody who wants to become spiritually realized, they're trying to slow down, they're trying to turn around and go the other direction, and then gradually speed up, right? Speed up in the spiritual direction. So that does require a little time in two ways. Time means like from now until next year, right? Or in the next, we have a 5-year plan or 10-year plan, whatever. So time in that way. But also time in the way of, we have to put time into it. Like a relationship in which no time is put into it means a failed relationship, right? Might be a woman and a man together, and the woman may say, "Oh, this guy never makes any time for me." Failed relationship. Or the man may say, "Oh, she never makes any time." Failed relationship, or whatever. So to put time into it. And then gradually we'll be able to turn around and go the other direction. So yeah, somehow or other we wanted it at a particular time, and we've become conditioned. So now it's now the human form is a time where we can turn around. So that's a basic thing. There's a lot more to say about that. It's a huge philosophical question that people have written volumes of books on and given many seminars, and so for further information, we all could speak more about that, or there's so many books here also we could read. So, all right, I think that's all the time we have, and Damodar, our host, our good host, faithful host, has some announcements.